you love podcasts? The Adelaide Podcast Festival is back again for the third year, and this time it's part of the Adelaide Fringe. It's your opportunity to see a bunch of podcasts from a range of genres recorded live before your eyes.
You guys ready?
Big thanks to Omni Studio, Zoom, Young Henry's, Fresh FM, Ozcast, Studio Creations and Cartel Media for supporting podcasting in Adelaide. Get your 2019 Adelaide Podcast Festival tickets from Fringe Sticks, #ADL Podfest. We look forward to seeing you there.
I don't know exactly how to pronounce it.
This podcast is brought to you by
Ikagori?
Ikagori.
It's a Japanese concept for self-worth and belief.
Attitude consultant.
So Amelia, what does success mean to you?
Okay, so, I mean, I feel like that's a loaded question.
Sorry to stop you right there. What do you mean by loaded question?
Okay, well, so what does...
It sounds like you're consulting my attitude right now.
That could be. Well, okay, what do I mean that I think it's a loaded question? Because I think it expects a one-dimensional answer,
Yep.
but success is multi-dimensional, you know, like the human condition. Because success at one point might be different to what success is at another, and in one aspect of my life it's different to others. But to try and answer, you know, I don't do linear, I don't do straight direction very well. In all aspects of my life, I'm often like, oh, there's a bit there and a bit there and a bit there. So that's what my answers might be like too. But to answer what does success mean to me, as a mother might be that, you know, I have a really great relationship with my sons. I have 2 boys, and a big aspect of what I've, you know, what pressure I've taken on board as a mother is that I want to make sure I raise boys that are respectful of themselves, of others, both male and female. You know, we're in a time where there's a lot of conversation, a good conversation, I think, and not even, it's not all positive, but at least we're having dialogue around, you know, this issue where one woman a week is dying at the hands of a male partner or someone close to her. You know, I want to make sure that the boys that I bring up know that that's not acceptable behaviour, know that. So they're basically respectful, and really respect needs to go across both male and female. It shouldn't be skewed either way.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's a measure of success as a mother. You know, as a business owner, to try and keep my business going so it doesn't lose money. I don't have huge financial goals, you know, in that I don't need to make millions and millions of dollars. I do want to, in a financial perspective, my notion of success is to make enough money that I have the ability to help others that are in need.
I kind of feel like I need a windsock on this.
Oh, do you want to shut that window?
No, but it's really nice at the same time.
No, but then you'll hear it and you'll be like, why didn't I shut that? Actually,
Yeah, why didn't I
Chris is
shut
probably
that
gonna tell
window?
me.
Yeah. We're just doing check 1, 2. So we haven't started yet. I'm just going to go grab my coffee.
Oh yeah, I think I finished mine.
You finished yours?
Oh no, I've still got a bit. Hang
You
on,
got a bit?
hang on.
Yeah, okay.
There we go.
Thank you.
Alright.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Yeah. So we were just doing the mic check.
Good eye.
Okay, so we were doing...
We're ready.
Okay, we're ready. I do have this backup recording as well.
Oh, good.
It does capture the behind the scenes, but sometimes I have interviews where I've forgotten to press the record button, which is really awkward.
Oh well, good. I can tell you about that. Like, oh my god, you want to hear a story about fucking up because you didn't hit record?
Love to.
Oh, well, hi as well. Like, we're starting, we're going.
Oh yeah. Sorry, this is Amelia Veale from Be The Drop.
Hi, I'm Amelia Veale, and I'm going to start with my fuck up story. So I was at an event, and Kate Ceberano was at this event.
Yep.
And I love Kate Ceberano. I saw her years ago in Jesus Christ Superstar, the musical, and she was amazing. And she's got a great voice. Australian icon. I was like, yep, oh my God, I'm going to interview Kate Ceberano. And, but it was just like I had my Zoom handheld microphone. So like I didn't have a lot of time. They're like, okay, yep, Kate will talk with you type thing. So I was like, oh, okay, Kate, I'm just going to grab a quick interview. Did the interview. And then I was like, oh, thank you so much. And I looked down to turn my microphone recording off.
Yes.
Just like, oh, the blood just dropped from my face. And I just went, and Kate goes to me, "You didn't hit record, did you?" I was like, I could hardly talk.
Yeah.
I was like, "No." And she goes, without missing a beat, amazing. "Don't worry, love. It's not the first time. It won't be the last. Let's do it again."
Beautiful.
Oh my God. So if anybody tells you Kate Sobrano is a diva, they're lying.
I love her. What a great attitude.
So thank God.
Yeah.
Because I still got my interview with Kate Sobrano because I was like, oh, I'm just dying.
Yeah.
There you go.
And it's always the important people, isn't it?
I know.
It's not like
all the interviews I've done literally hundreds of interviews.
Yeah.
And I didn't hear it because I was just a little bit worked up, or
Yeah.
I don't know, bloody Murphy's Law, right?
Yeah, that's the thing I loved about when I used to run it through this little field recorder here. When it wasn't recording, you couldn't actually hear it through the headphones, so
Yeah.
you automatically knew that I can hear the sound of my own voice now, so I know it's recording.
Yeah. But this setup doesn't have
This
that.
setup doesn't have that.
No, and
No.
see, because we just did an interview where I'll get that out in a minute. Sorry, you're going to have to edit that.
No,
And we just recorded an interview of mine with you.
Yep.
And you had the headphones on, and lucky because my batteries went flat, and I totally wouldn't have noticed.
That's right. Lucky I like the sound of my own voice, Amelia.
Well, that's why we do podcasts, right?
Yeah.
But I must admit, I do like that Chris edits my podcasts.
Yeah.
Because I don't mind hearing my own voice once, but re-editing it and having to listen to it multiple times,
That's horrible.
It's not,
Yeah.
it's not so good.
Yeah, when I started doing 2-hour interviews, it's like this just became a fucking job. You know what I mean?
And you're like, totally, I don't sound like that. What the hell? I don't sound like that. You go, oh shit, I must.
That was the hardest thing of starting doing this Attitude Consultant podcast, was actually listening to the sound of my own voice. I've never really liked it. It was doing stand-up. People are like, you got to get into radio, but I've done a couple of radio interviews and I couldn't listen to it.
Yeah, I don't need to, I just like the talking bit, you know, and then I don't need to listen to it after. I'm all like, radio, yeah, love radio.
Yeah, you're just getting your words out, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm there. Let's do it, right? Okay.
Yeah, anything you want to get off your chest, Amelia?
What's
What's pissing you off at the moment?
pissing me off at the moment?
Yeah.
Okay, that is actually a really challenging question to ask me because I'm like the eternal optimist, right? My glass is always half full. So even if something is pissing me off, I somehow re-engineer it so that it doesn't. And like it's not, I mean, that sounds a bit corny and wanky, right?
No, that's great.
But it's not, and it's actually an attitude that I have to work at, talking about attitude.
Yes.
You know, like it's not that it comes, and I think sometimes people see that because I'm generally a positive, upbeat person. And so people see that and they're like, oh, you're always so happy, so you must just have no shit going on in your life. Like, get fucked. Like, who has no shit going on in their life? But I choose not to let that shit get to me. And it's and some days I don't win that choice. Yeah. Some days my husband works a fly-out roster, so he's away Monday to Friday. We've got 2 kids. I'm trying to run my own business, run the household, and get the kids where they've got to go. You know, it daily. That's a bit of a grind.
Oh,
you know?
for sure. Yeah.
But I get up and I choose not to let it be a grind. I choose to go, nah, this is, I do live in an incredible location. I'm in the Adelaide Hills. We've got beautiful surroundings. I have got, I've got family and people around me. So I choose to focus on those positive things instead of the stuff that pisses me off. So to ask me what's pissing me off, I'm literally like, I block that stuff out.
Great.
So it's very hard for me to answer that. So realistically, my biggest challenge, instead of pissing me off, because I try not to allow that as an emotion, is that just, the day-to-day grind. Yeah, and juggling things with my husband being away a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
It's not a walk in the park. Okay. So the glass half full is that we're here. We're here where my family is. I do have these things. This is an active choice and decisions that we've made. So my glass is full because I'm living my choices.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And
is that too serious? Oh my God!
No, this is great. So you're narrative marketing?
Yes.
That's your business?
Yeah, so I started narrative marketing about 4 years ago. Like when we first came back from Strawn, I started working for the Adelaide Hills Council. I was in their library area as a virtual services team leader. What's that? Don't really know. But, you know, and the library in Stirling is incredible, and the staff there are sensational. But overall, I found it challenging to work within local government. I have worked in local government before and state government, and it's the same across the you know, government sort of organisations. I found that there was, you know, the bureaucracy itself has, you know, there's ways that things have to be done, and it challenged my. I'm more of a creative, and I like. Basically, probably I'm also a control freak. It's some way of description. I like to control my own journey. So I started my own business. And yeah, narrative marketing, because for me it's all about storytelling. People say, oh, what do you do? And I'm like, I tell stories. And they're like, so someone pays you that? Like, oh, so are you a primary school teacher?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm all like, well, no, actually I work in marketing. And they're like, oh, well, why didn't you say that? Because for me, stories is actually about creating connection.
Yep.
And, you know, it's talking about either the products and services that you deliver, but without just focusing on your product and services. It's around telling the story about how your customers can position themselves with and around your products and services. So it, you know, it becomes so much more meaningful. Like, you know, the word authentic is used a lot. Marketers overuse words. We're terrible for it.
Yeah, it's such a buzzword, isn't it?
Authentic and engagement and genuine.
I have a little chime whenever that word comes up, whenever buzzwords comes up.
Okay, well, I'm a marketer, and I'm sorry, I try not to use jargon and buzzwords, but man, we're shit for it.
Oh no, I love them. I love them.
Yeah. So I mean, and the challenge with that is that it is true. You are looking to create that real meaningful connection.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, if you want to create customers that are loyal and will have repeat business, then you need to have connection with them. Yeah. You know.
Oh, I can see value in it, but how do you get other people to find value in that?
Because I know, and not go, you want to tell a story.
Yeah. yeah, like...
You have to find the right customers, really.
Yeah.
Like, and, you know, I run my own business, and as I mentioned, I've got lots of other competing priorities. So I don't have huge numbers of clients, you know, and I don't just take on board anyone. I really find those right people that have that same value set. Yeah. You know, and that want to make real meaningful connections, you know, so that are happy. And yeah, okay, so I sometimes have to use some other more serious terminology and not just talk just about stories. But also the other thing to add to that is that more and more, like, so when I started narrative marketing, the storytelling concept probably wasn't as prevalent. But now, fast forward to now, you know, everyone's talking about stories.
Yeah.
So, I mean, which is brilliant for me, because I'm all like, thank you. They're all doing my marketing.
Yeah.
I'm all like, yeah, that's what I do too.
Yeah.
So,
and can you share your story, your narrative marketing story?
Okay. Well, I mean, how much time have we got?
Oh, we've got as much time as you want.
This is a 2-hour edit.
Yeah.
No. Well, okay. So I did mention that we've lived remote regional. So I lived in Broken Hill. So I think the storytelling aspect really was fueled for me in Broken Hill. So my husband was working at the mine there, and I had 2 part-time jobs, and one of them was with the Broken Hill Regional Writers Centre. So that was employed through council. Yep. But I just ran the Writers Centre for them. And I got to do things like run poetry festivals. And I had a weekend of crime. That was fun. So I had a crime fiction author come, and we did like lots of great events. I ran a weekly writers workshop, which I had to Google, like, oh, what's a protagonist? Let's talk about that, you know. And then I'd deliver it as a class. So it was, you know, it was a sensational experience. And one of the big things that I did as part of that work was running literacy programs for the Indigenous communities in the area. Yep. So that meant working in Broken Hill, Menindee and Wilcannia. And I went into that process thinking, you know, that I was compassionate and had an understanding of Indigenous, you know, issues. And, you know, I felt like I knew stuff. Anyway, my first trip to Wilcannia delivering literacy programs, I realised I knew nothing. Yeah. I knew shit all. Like, honestly, it was confronting. I'd been working with the Indigenous communities in Broken Hill and Menindee, and yeah, there was some literacy learning issues, but they weren't really significant. but in Wilcannia, I was working with 14-year-old kids who couldn't read and write.
Yep.
And I went back to my room that night and I bawled. Like, you know, like that whole body choking sobs, you know, it was massive. I was just like, oh, you know, it was this heart-wrenching realization that, you know, this problem was huge. And not only was I not actually helping it, I was going in there delivering a white-based literacy program as a white person. And I was like, fuck. Yeah. Not only am I not helping, I'm part of this goddamn problem. Because the kids, we were trying to get them to write stuff. They were literally ashamed to be, you know, because they couldn't do what I was asking them to do. And I was like, and these were beautiful kids, you know, like fun, like outside of the classroom. They were hysterical. They had me in stitches because they were incredible storytellers.
Yes.
Their history is an oral history.
Yep.
They tell stories. And not only do they tell stories, they're fucking brilliant at telling stories. Like their use of humor and pause and just everything, like so good. And I was like, what? I went back and I was like, what are we doing? We're doing the wrong thing. Mm-hmm. So then I did some research and I was very lucky that the people that I worked with in the Broken Hill Council were really open to crazy ideas. And I was like, okay, so I want to do some stuff. There's a guy in Sydney, he's running slam poetry. Let's do some slam poetry. And so we brought him out and we ran slam poetry competitions, which for those of you who don't know, slam poetry, you get 2 minutes, you get up on stage and it's just you and your voice. So you can sing because it's kind of got a little bit of history in rap, but it's more about the words. So you've got 2 minutes and then when they time it and the bell goes at 2 minutes and you have to stop.
Yep.
And then they've selected 3 random people from the audience and they score you and then there's a winner. Anyway, so we had busloads of kids coming from Menindee to participate in slam competitions and we had 2 winners and they got flown to Sydney and it was incredible. And literally this change in these kids. I was there we're still delivering literacy-based programs, but they were oral.
Yep.
So we did slam workshops and got them to and they got up and they told these stories and they were brilliant. They were so good. And so for me, I mean, you talk about light bulb moments, but it was, you know, a life-changing moment. And I was like, stories aren't just, you know, something that you read your kids. Stories are something that gives us a sense of purpose and meaning. And they allow us to articulate that.
Yeah.
You know, and for the audience to affiliate and connect with us through that. I was just, holy cow, this is the meaning of life, you know? And I mean, you think about the Bible, and I'm an atheist, so it's not a story that I subscribe to, but think about how powerful that story has been. I mean, blood has been lost because of that story. So, I mean, I don't understand why people would underestimate the power of story. It defines so many individuals' lives. Yeah. And so, you know, that for me that was the seed where if I'm going to do a marketing agency, it's going to be a narrative marketing agency. It's going to be around helping people tap into the power of their story.
Yeah, and that's your story.
Yes, I'm sorry, that was a long answer.
No, that was fantastic, and you kind of that feeling of hopelessness that you were feeling at the start, and to totally lift it from that. Did you feel the opposite? Oh
yeah, look, you know, and now I mean I've created my t-shirts. I love storytelling. You know, it's a journey. And you know, not all of it works, but we talked about this when I was chatting with you earlier. But that's how you learn. Like I certainly, that helplessness triggered one of the greatest learnings that I've had so far. And for me, education and learning is that platform of how we evolve and how we grow. So I'm constantly on that journey. So you can't possibly know everything, nor would I want to, because what? You know, that's what gives me excitement and thrills is learning something new. And even if it's about something I already know, but it's somebody else's perspective on that, that's a new learning. So
that's great. And I really liked what you were saying before about I know nothing. Like that's. It's a great attitude to have, even just as a starting point, just to kind of admit that you know nothing.
It was confronting.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Soul destroying, confronting. Because I was like, you know, we did fundraising. I don't know. It's just in retrospect, I was like, bullshit.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I think realistically as city-based white people, it is challenging for us to really know, because the Indigenous people that we may associate with, you know, are doing things, achieving things, or then we've got the other end of the spectrum and we might see them as homeless people or whatever. We don't have a real understanding of what's going on until you go out into some of these remote regional communities, and then you go, there's this whole world of problems in Australia that we're not seriously acknowledging. And I think, and I do, because I personally went through that journey myself, I understand that we think we know, but really, you know, until you go there and really understand, I'm not sure that it's easy to seriously comprehend what's happening.
Yeah.
Sorry, that did get serious.
No, I like serious.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean...
It's becoming a serious podcast, Amelia.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
But remember, for me, I try and focus on the positive. But that's an issue that is challenging, to focus on the positive. But for me, the positive is, let's just keep doing work. Let's keep working on it. And there's an organisation called AIM Mentoring, which has been set up by Jack Bancroft. He's got a double-barreled name, and unfortunately I've forgotten it. But AIME, it's AIME Mentoring, and it's an Indigenous education. What started as that, but they've gone international now. It's amazing thing. So if people want to get involved and help, you know, and they feel helpless, you know, they want to be able to do something, I would recommend looking up AIM Mentoring. Even just buy some of their merchandise as a starting point to help them support what they're doing. They're setting up mentoring programs, really focusing on education, and it's a sensational organisation.
Okay, great.
There you go. Positive end to a potentially negative story. It's how I roll.
So Amelia, what does success mean to you?
Okay, so I mean, I feel like that's a loaded question, right? But
and I like that you hated the question.
I didn't hate it.
Oh, you didn't hate it? No.
No, but actually, also I did.
Yeah.
Just because I can't help being who I am. I found a little diagram.
Please share. Please share.
So, okay.
I always like it when we share visual things in an audio.
In a podcast?
Yeah.
I know. So, when this episode goes
it's a Venn
live,
diagram.
Rowan will potentially share this on his social channel so listeners can actually see it.
Yeah. I
don't know how to pronounce it, but there's a word, it's a Japanese concept, and it's ikigai.
Ikigai, yep.
So it's I-K-I-G-A-I, and it's a Japanese concept meaning a reason for being, right?
Yep.
And in this diagram, there's 4 different circles, and they all overlap, and this ikigai is in the center. And the 4 things is looking at passion, mission, vocation, and profession. And it's, you know, that mix is like, so your passion and mission is what you love doing.
Yeah.
So you want to have, you know, if we're looking at what the success means, and I'm saying it's multidimensional, if we had to put it into one bucket, what would those elements be? And so one of them would be doing what you love, doing what you're good at, and then doing what you can be paid for, because you know, we need to pay the bills, and then doing what the world needs. And so it's this mix of these 4 elements. And for me, you know, if I had to define success in one thing, it would be ikigai.
Yeah.
So I can't even pronounce it.
Ikigai.
But it is. It's that thing about balancing doing what you love, what you're good at, what you can be paid for, and what the world needs. And
beautiful.
I think that's how we find, you know, if you're doing that type of thing, if you can fulfill that, then that's a utopian sense of achievement, really. Like,
that's your Miley Cyrus right there.
It's Miley Cyrus.
That's all Miley.
Miley is smiling all over that.
That's like the Venn diagrams of Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Pretty much.
Yeah. I like it.
Yeah, I really love it. It resonates very strongly with me. Obviously, it's a Japanese concept. I haven't created it.
Yeah.
But when I first came across this a few years ago, I was like, yeah, that's it.
And would you say you would be right in the center of the core, or would you say you've got a little bit of work to do? I mean,
I've definitely got a bit of work to do.
A bit of work
yeah,
to do?
So like I'm certainly doing more of what I love and more of what I'm good at. I'm not always necessarily being paid the full amount that I might want to for it. And I'm not 100% sure that I'm always doing what the world needs. But I think also you probably don't always sit in the middle. We probably cycle around it.
Depending on what's happening at the time.
And, there's life happens. Because I do believe that you sort of become what you project. Like I'm a big person for saying the things that I want to try and achieve because you're more likely to realize them. Yeah. And also like whether that means because you then act on them or because other people then become aware and that opens opportunities for you because they'll go, oh, well, you should speak to so-and-so or you should do this. What about that? I know, it is really about that. Once you start verbalizing and talking about it, amazing things happen and you sort of go, oh, wow, that was an incredible coincidence. But I don't believe that. I believe it's because you put it out there.
Oh, yeah, that's good. I went through this whole cynical, negative rut, I guess, on things only come to those that complain the most. Like the squeaky wheel gets the oil, and it's totally not who I am. And I reached that point, it's like, I just have to complain more. I just have to whinge.
But I think for me,
you always put positive slants on things.
Mine's the complete opposite because I think the people that whinge most might get some things, but realistically, in the end of the day, they're not fulfilled. They're not happy about it. They're definitely not in ikigai.
They're not in
right?
there.
They might get something, or maybe it's just they get shut up. And realistically, does that make them feel good? Does that make them feel like they're doing what the world needs? Does it make them feel like they're doing what they're good at, or whatever? I mean, maybe they're good at whinging, so that could be terrible.
Yeah, and it's obviously working for them.
But I don't think long term that's going to achieve happiness. What I do think is if you put out, you could do instead of whinging, it is put it out in a positive framework. I want to achieve this. I'm looking to do this. So it's still be a squeaky door. Right? I think the squeaky door policy is great, and that's what I mean. Just keep saying these things. Oh yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm looking for this. I want to do that. I want to get a sponsor for my podcast. I want to get a sponsor. That's not whinging. That's putting a positive manifestation out there. Like who wants to come on board as my podcast sponsor? But you do have to.
That's all right. You can get that if you want.
Just chat to my mum mid-interview.
Oh, it's me. Hi, Mum.
Hi, Mum.
Nice.
So, no, I won't. But it is about, I do think it is about the squeaky wheel, but my lens on that is that's a positive thing. And like realistically, I have put out things in business and personal life, and it might take 1 year, 2 years, 3 years to manifest. But, sometime later, it'll come back and you go, well, yeah, okay, I'll follow up that opportunity. But if I hadn't put it out there in the first place, it never would have come back to me.
Yeah. Have you ever had anything come back to you recently that you've kind of forgotten that you've planted those seeds?
Yeah, like in business, definitely. So, one of the things I've really discovered is that running your own business and building client relationships takes a long time. And so literally I've had people and I've been, I've had an initial contact, gone through, spent a lot of time, understanding their needs, what they want, and saying, okay, this is the service you might want, and they've said no, and then a year later they're like, yeah, we're ready to go, and I'm like, what? Hang on, what? I forgot about that one. Oh, good, okay, let's go.
Yeah.
And surprisingly, that happens probably more often than not. It's probably more unusual for me to meet a new potential client, chat to them, and then just start.
Yeah.
That's actually more unusual.
Has there any been cases where you haven't been ready or you've moved on and so there hasn't been that alignment there?
Well...
Because that could be just as frustrating.
Yeah.
Because it's like, where were you 2 years ago?
I know. But then if the fit's not right, the fit's not right. Yeah. I'd be just as likely to say, okay, well, that's not something I do, but speak to this person. Because then again, I believe that everything comes back to you. If I say no, but that doesn't really quite fit, but you should speak to so-and-so. They're fantastic. They'll be able to help you with that. So-and-so is like, oh, geez, Amelia, that's amazing. Next time somebody talks to them about something that I might do, they bring it back to me. It might not be the same client, but it comes back in form. So... Told you, glass half full.
Glass half full. What is that a strategy of yours, or is that just something that just comes naturally from your personality?
No, look, as I said, I work at it. I made a conscious decision, but so I think it's a bit of both. Naturally, yes, it's part of my personality, so that does make it easier. I'm not working against myself, because as I get older, I realise you just have to be who you are. Yeah. Like, you know, you're younger and you try and be something different, but it doesn't really gel. It's hard work, don't bother.
Oh, okay.
But then even though it's a natural inclination, I definitely work at it. And yes, it's a strategy. You know, I went through some challenging times as a teenager, like nothing massive, significant, but just general sort of the awkwardness of teenage years. And like, because I've got a big personality, and when I went through those awkward years, some of those challenges manifested themselves externally. And I remember I had a conversation with a teacher, and like, I'd been upset about something. I can't even remember. It's high school stuff. But I'd got upset, and other people had got upset because they were worried about me. And the teacher said to me, she said, Amelia, you know, you need to be conscious of your impact on others, because you have big reactions, and so you need to think about your impact on others. And it was kind of a turning point in that thinking about impact and thinking about impact on others. And then I took that further and thinking about impact on myself, you know. So it started, I think as teenagers, my analogy is we're kind of like blinkers. We really just see, you know, things from our perspective. We're not very good. And then you kind of, the blinkers come off and you're like, holy shit, I was a little bitch. Oh my gosh. Because it was, you know, it was about me. Oh, my life's so hard. And then, oh God, imagine if you had teenage problems. But anyway.
Yeah, get out of your head, people. Get out of your head.
Exactly. And so, but it was that realization of impact on others and control of behaviors. And so then that's really become, you know, over the years, I've done that in a self-managing my own impact on myself.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't know if I explained that properly.
No, that's perfect. So you've got your narrative marketing. Maybe let's talk about your because you got a podcast as well.
Yes.
What brought you to the point where it's like, I'm going to make a podcast, and why?
Yeah, so my podcast is called Be the Drop. Get amongst it, people. Subscribe, look me up on iTunes. I have had my podcast for 3 years, and it still thrills me that my name, Amelia Veale, is in iTunes. I'm all like, holy shit, you can see me in here. Like, I love it. Small stuff. See, this is the good thing about being positive. You can be really excited about very low level stuff.
I like that.
And now I'm in Spotify as well. What?
Yeah.
I mean, they're just so international famous, right? And legit, I do actually get people who listen to my podcast in other countries. I'm like, wow. Yeah. I mean, and I will answer your question in a minute, but
no.
But like that ability, this is one of the reasons why I got into podcasting, is that ability that from my, like, sitting in my house, here we are now, like, I've got some recording gear, and I can put content out that can be easily accessed by people all over the world. Whoa! Yeah. Why is everyone not doing this? Like, holy cow, that is powerful shit. You know, I can tell my story, I can help share other people tell their stories, you know, and it can broadcast across the world. I mean, I get people, you know, from Canada sending me emails, or, you know, we were charting in Turkey for a while, like, what? Yeah. Go Turkey.
It's weird, isn't it? Like, most of the feedback you get is in the form of analytics. Yeah. Of just as people tuning in.
Yeah. Well, you know, and people email me.
Oh, you get emails?
I do.
See, I don't get any of that.
Oh, I do. People email me and they want to be on my show, and, you know, or give me advice. That's fun too. Yeah. Mostly it's good, so that's right.
Are you at the point now where you don't need to chase people? Where people just kind of come to you and say, I want to be on your podcast, like I did?
Yeah, look, definitely I get approached quite regularly. But I also do, like, there's definitely guests where I'll go, I really want to hear that person's story. I want to be able to share that person's story. And I take that privilege, you know, really seriously, the ability to share people's stories, because, as I said, education and storytelling for me, it's the meaning of life. It's not pie, it's story. But anyway. So what got me into podcasting? So when I set up narrative marketing, I was like, I'm going to do this, going to have a consultancy, going to do stuff. And then I was like, I need to do some professional development. I need to learn. I really want to, I'd had my first son and I was getting back into the workforce. So I was like, I'm going to expand myself. Love expanding myself.
Yeah.
Food too. Anyway, and so I went to social media marketing world.
Ooh.
And I was like, if I'm going to go to a marketing conference, I want to go to a world conference, social media marketing world. And it's in San Diego over in America. I was like, that's it. My sister was establishing her business over in the US at the time. She now lives over there and they run their business over there. So I managed to combine it with an overseas working trip with my sister and going to this conference. So I went along the social media marketing world. Thousands of people go to this conference. It's American sized, and I was like drinking the Kool-Aid, man. It was like marketers. It was loved up. It was really totally naff, but I loved every second of it. And podcasting was a really, everyone, they were just like, oh, of course. What do you mean you're not podcasting? It was a given. And this was in 2015, and in Australia, podcasting wasn't a given.
No.
But in the US, it was really starting to grow. I mean, this was before Serial, totally cracked things open, the podcast Serial. That was a huge turning point. And now there's a lot of other big listener podcasts which have cracked into mainstream listeners, and more people now are listening to podcasts. But back in 2015 in Australia, podcasting was around, but not huge. And so I came back to Adelaide from Social Media Marketing World going, well, I need a podcast. And I'd been to a session with John Lee Dumas, who has a podcast called Entrepreneurs on Fire, and he's all like, hello, Fire Nation. That's me trying to do an American accent. Sorry, John. He's JLD. He's amazing. And I went to his podcasting session, and he literally hugs every single person that comes into his workshop. He's a very tactile connection type person. Great. Like totally isn't like, and his podcast gets millions of downloads. He's made a lot of money from his podcast. So he could totally be above us little beginner people, but he's not. So I was like, I'm so fired up. I'm ready to go. Fire Nation, fire me up. Yeah. And came back to Adelaide and went, how do I do a podcast? What? Like you, what's all this tech stuff?
Shit.
And so it did take me until 2016 to then launch my podcast. But I knew I had to do it. And I was like, I'm sure I can figure this out, right? Mm. And luckily I work with an amazing guy called Chris who does video work with me for narrative marketing. We create a lot of video content as well as audio because, it's video. People love video now. We don't want to read.
Amazing. If it wasn't for Chris, I wouldn't be doing this. The Attitude Consultant wouldn't exist.
Oh my gosh. See, Chris, love shout out to you. Well done.
Love shout out to Chris. He's been on the podcast. He gave an elevator pitch.
Yeah. I'm doing an event during Fringe and a podcasting event. He's going to join me on stage during that. So if you want to meet the incredible Chris, come along to Pop Your Podcast Cherry. It's an interactive podcast show during the Fringe. Oh.
And what dates is it on, Amelia?
Oh, the 19th and the 26th of February. So
and whereabouts is it?
It's at the Jade, which is a cool venue.
All right, fantastic.
Thank you. I just did a plug. This is like a mid-roll ad. We just shoved that in.
Yeah.
Well, it's part of the podcasting journey that I've been on. And so started Be The Drop. We used to do videos with pretty much most episodes, but the workload just became too big. We just couldn't maintain that. So we do have a collection of videos associated with Be The Drop as well. Sometimes I still do them, but not regularly. And I'm kind of rethinking how I do that, how that fits, because I love video, but as I said, it's just the cost of trying to produce that all the time. So I do a weekly show. I think I'm up to, 130 episodes or something. I can't remember.
Well done.
Yeah, thank you. I'll take that because it's not a walk in the park. As you know, creating content, there's work in the time taken doing the interviews, coordinating the interviews, editing the interviews, then sharing, distributing the interviews. Like it's a 20-minute weekly show requires quite a bit of
for
time
sure.
commitment. So
I've put like, sometimes it's taken nearly 2 weeks to edit it, and I put it up and it's like, I just got tens of listens. Where's the payoff?
I know. So you cannot be definitely you cannot be in podcasting if you're looking for immediate payoff or just for the payoff. That can't be the motivation. Yeah. Because whilst there are podcasts that are growing and getting incredible listener numbers, there are also, hundreds of thousands of podcasts out there that don't necessarily get the listen. So you have to be really strategic about how you want to include podcast and audio content into what you're doing and why.
Yeah.
But look, I think it's really exciting, and I love, as I said, all of the stat numbers are growing. Which is why, I'm doing things like the show that I'm doing in the Fringe, which is, around Pop Your Podcast Cherry, a bit, this has to be a Fringe title, right?
Yeah.
But it's really just about learn more about podcasting, because people are like, I want, what, there are people that are like, what is podcasting? That still does exist. And then why podcasting, how does it work?
I do think live podcasting's the way to go.
I love it.
Just rock up to events.
Yeah, look, so I've been involved in the podcast festival, and I've had my own live. The thing that I really, the thing that, okay, so there's both positive and negative, of course. But so the negative that sort of really fuels my love of live is that you record the content without an audience, and so you do miss that personal connection. You then distribute it, and people listen to it whenever they want to on their own terms, and you're not there.
Yeah.
So you don't get that connection with your audience. You don't know how they're reacting to your content. Yeah. Unless they do write to you, which, and as I said, that I love that when I get that feedback, and people are like, particularly with some episodes, and some episodes really resonate with people, so they'll tell me about that, and it's like, that's so great. But then some episodes I might not get feedback on, so I don't know, you miss that. You don't know what it is that's going on. So live events are great because, this podcasting world is insular. You then take it out and the audience is right there. So you can feel it, you can see it. Yeah. So I think because of the nature of podcasting, because you do so much of it at a distance from the audience, it's a really good idea to do some live shows and get connected to an audience, to really just as a bit of a barometer check, like, am I on track here? Is this the right sort of style? What works, what doesn't?
Interesting. It's going to be, the podcast festival is going to be a challenge for me, because I do like the fact that sometimes my narrative is in the editing.
Yeah.
And I'll just mash it up. And a lot of the stuff that I do is breaking the fourth wall. Yeah. I don't know, like, if there was an audience member here right now. See, I'm getting nervous even just talking about it. I can't even get the words out. It's kind of like people standing around sniffing out, what are you guys doing? Are you making a movie? Yeah.
But I think so for me, again, it's just flip that lens and go, what a great opportunity.
Help me with my attitude.
What a great opportunity to have your audience there and to feel it, to work with them, to work them into the content. And it is, so realistically, podcasting, particularly if you're doing an interview, you're doing a live interview, it's this kind of cool voyeuristic thing, like that Alfred Hitchcock movie, The Window.
Love it. Yeah, love that movie.
And so it's like that. You're literally inviting your audience to come and peer through the window, because you're on stage there. You're doing an interview, which is a one-on-one. So your focus has got to be your guest. You've still got to do that interview. You've got to get the content from them, but you've got an audience. You've got people watching you. So there is that pressure. But how cool is that? And how cool for them. They get to have their window moment and see you in action, watch and learn. And as I said, education, helping people learn and grow. It's the meaning of life. I'm being repetitive, but it for me, it's a purpose.
Okay, maybe I just need to get over myself and say this is an opportunity here.
Yeah,
make it interactive.
It's definitely, and if you can, but I think not getting too caught up with the interactive stuff, because that does add a whole nother level of complexity. Yeah. But being throwing out sometimes to the audience and having your little aside, what about you guys? Like, if the guest says something, and you're like, yes, I love that. Do you guys love that? What a great sort of thing, and people can't see what I'm doing because I'm talking, but I am looking at my pretend audience and chatting to them. But I said to you, you know, like I've been, even when I'm cooking at home, sometimes I have asides to a little audience that's not actually there.
Okay.
So
Could
maybe
you pretend there's an audience here now?
Yeah, okay, guys. So, well, you know, are you loving it here? Is everybody happy? Yeah! That's my pretend. They're loving it.
Nice. So they're loving it. They're loving this interview.
Yeah, they're loving it sick. Thanks,
Yeah,
guys.
yeah.
You've been a great audience. Thank you.
No, they've been great.
They've been great. So, yeah, it's just, look, I think it's about viewing it as a really good opportunity to try and get that barometer.
Yeah, and I guess I just need to not worry about how I'm doing it. This is how I do things.
Yeah.
Maybe I just need to present it like this is how the attitude consultant runs an interview.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit unorthodox. Sometimes I mumble my shit.
Yeah.
There's a lot of dead air time, but I edit that out.
Yeah.
And sometimes I leave it in. Most of the time I leave it in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just, because, you know, I said before, just be yourself.
Yeah.
Because trying to be anything else is too fucking hard.
Well, I tried that last year and it failed.
Well, don't. I reckon you already know the advice. You don't need me to give it to you.
Well, I'm finding that with most of this life coaching shit. It's just telling you what you already know.
Yeah, and I suppose maybe it's that third person validation.
Yeah.
Somebody else said it, so then you're like, oh, yeah. But realistically, inside you knew that.
Yeah, I've got this
They've
thing.
just reminded you of what you already knew.
I've got this thing going where if someone come up to me and ask me for advice on anything, I go, okay, you grab yourself a piece of paper, you write down what you want me to say, and then read it out to yourself.
Exactly. You totally already know this shit. That's it. And because, if you tap into, I think it's just because we question ourselves, we doubt ourselves, you know? That's where we think, that's where that third party, the coach or whatever, can help us because it can move past our doubt.
I mean, I doubted myself coming into doing the Be The Drop podcast. It's like, I'm not a successful business guy. Like, yeah, well, is it going to be useful?
It's going to be amazing. We've recorded it already, and Attitude Consultant listeners, make sure you jump over and have a listen because Rowan smashed it.
Sorry, thanks, Amelia. And be the drop. That's from the analogy of one drop of water can make a huge difference.
Yeah, so it's a waterfall begins with one drop, and look what comes from that.
Yep, great.
And so it's also around, for me, that's also around, you know, if you're the drop that starts the waterfall, you need to keep on that path to get to where the waterfall is. So don't be distracted by other people's paths and go off left and right, because then you won't get to your waterfall, right? You need to stick on that path. There needs to be a degree of bloody mindedness. This is my goal. The waterfall's my goal. I'm just going on that journey to the waterfall. And there might be some bends in the road because that's life. But your river might have some bends. But I'm not going to let other people take me off to other things, because otherwise there'll be no waterfall. It's actually the opposite. I'm going to bring other people on board.
And then you get a movement.
And we get a movement.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, we're going to fucking revolutionize this shit. And people are like, oh, what shit? Any shit, it doesn't matter. And that's the beauty of it, because it depends what's important to you.
Yeah.
Create your waterfall. It literally doesn't matter what it is, but you'll find other people that also share that passion and bring them together. Unify and unite in shared passion, and look what happens. Incredible stuff. Yeah, I truly believe that it's when we stop worrying about our own agendas, or stop, just worrying about the differences, and that we actually unite in things. Yeah. That's when cool shit happens. That's when the magic is really created. And it's not one individual, it's that culmination of individuals. But there may need to be one individual with a really strong focus on it. It might be more than an individual. It might be a company, or a not-for-profit, or whatever. It doesn't really matter, but there does need to be a bit of a focus, or else you're going to evaporate. Yeah, I love an analogy.
Another great analogy of movement I've heard before is of a dance floor. Like, in order to start a dance floor, it begins with one person that'll get up.
Yeah, and then it's that second person.
The second person is the key.
Yeah, they've got to come and start dancing with the crazy person, because then the crazy person doesn't look so crazy. Yeah. Because there's someone else.
But the crazy person has to unify with them. Yeah. Not say that I'm better than you.
No, they have to join.
They have to join.
And then the third. And the fourth. And then you've got to pump and dance.
And then you've got to pump and dance floor.
I love it. Perfect.
Yeah.
It's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
If you want to be stuck just left dancing by yourself, well, that's okay. But if you want to bring other people, then you've got to unite with that person.
Get out of your head.
Yeah.
Yeah, get over yourself. Put your agenda aside.
Get the dance floor pumping.
Get it pumping.
Well, you've got to put your agenda aside to a degree. because you still got to stay to the focus. And if your focus is getting people on the dance floor, then keep dancing. And when the first person comes up, dance with them.
And then you're the core. You're
the ikigori.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly how to pronounce it.
This podcast is brought to you by
Ikigori.
Ikigori.
It's a Japanese concept for self-worth and belief. I should try and find out how to pronounce it.
Yeah.
That'll be a goal for me.
All right.
I just need to find someone who speaks Japanese.
Because that's the word of the podcast.
Yes.
Ikigori?
Ikigai?
Oh, okay.
Any Japanese listeners, tell us. Thanks.
Yeah, please put us on the right track. Well, Amelia, it's been an absolute joy. Thank you so much for this what do you call it when you do a cross promo?
It's a pod swap.
A pod swap.
Yes.
That's the terminology.
Apparently, that's what Liam told me.
Pod swap.
Meaning if I interviewed you for Be the Drop, and then you interviewed me for Attitude Consultant. We swap pods.
We swap pods.
Pod swap.
Yeah. So head over to Be the Drop podcast.
Yeah, and I'm not 100% sure when your episode will come out, but it'll be coming out soon.
It'll probably be the next one that I do, because we've got to get your promo in for your Fringe show.
Oh, yes. Very exciting. I mean, outwardly excited, inwardly kind of shitting some bricks. It'll be fine.
Yeah. And we're probably going to see you down at the podcast festival as well.
Yeah, it's a big week.
That's on the cards.
Yeah, we'll see what's happening.
All right. Excellent.
All right. Thanks so much, Ron. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Likewise, Amelia.
Okay. Bye.
Attitude Consultant is produced by Ryan Harry and distributed by the Ozcast Network.